have an active shooter.
Let's go ahead and declare this a mass casualty.
Welcome to Active Shooter, a podcast that covers the whys, the hows, and the aftermath of active shooter and mass casualty events.
They have an active shooter in the building. A second call says they are being attacked.
I've been shot. 16910 means we got shots fired. 4:15 a.m. Route 91. Sounded like an automatic firearm.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
mass casualty incidents.
Thank you for listening.
You are listening to Active Shooter, a podcast that may contain adult themes, explicit language, and graphic depictions of violence. Portions of this show may be traumatic for those under 18. Listener discretion is advised.
We do want to update you on the breaking news out of Orlando, the terror attack on a gay nightclub. Right now, at least 20 are dead, maybe more. The shooter also dead. Police say that he was well prepared, he was organized. They do not believe that he was from the area. More than 40 have been taken to a local hospital.
Terrified witnesses describing the horror of hearing the gunshots, seeing people injured during the chaos.
The Active Shooter podcast is fast approaching our milestone 100th episode. The next case will be covered in 3 parts, commencing with our coverage of the Pulse nightclub shooting. The following 2 parts will cover the shooting victims and shooter's background, respectively. Thank you for listening. The shooting at Pulse nightclub occurred during the early morning hours of Sunday, June 12, 2016, in Orlando, Florida. The average age of the 49 victims is a mere 29 years old. Not even old enough to run for President of the United States. On June 11th, 42 men and 7 women went into the Pulse nightclub, looking for a night of mirth and festivity. What should have been a joyous occasion abruptly ended in a bloodbath and the execution of 49 innocent people. 53 people were injured by varying degrees, and an entire nightclub filled with people were irrevocably changed by trauma from the shooting they were forced to endure. While the FBI has been reluctant to label the shooting as a hate crime, the fact remains that 90% of the victims were LGBTQ, and 90% were Latino. The shooter expressed distaste for the LGBTQ community, but he also had an obvious allegiance to foreign terrorist groups. Today's case is dedicated to the lives and memories of the 53 injured survivors and the 49 shooting victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting.
Active Shooter the podcast is a High Five Holly production, and I'm your host, JT. If you've listened to our prior episodes, you know that the Active Shooter podcast team has taken the no notoriety pledge, and we will not be sharing the real name of the shooters that we cover. We will be giving the shooters a pseudonym and refer to them by that name throughout the episode. This will help in clearing up any confusion in the story, while remaining true to our pledge and not naming the shooter by their actual name.
We will refer to today's shooter as Nate. The Pulse nightclub was founded in 2004 and inhabited a 4,500 square foot building located at 1912 South Orange Avenue in Orlando, Florida. As one of the few clubs in Orlando that allowed 18-year-olds to be inside from open to close, the club hummed along to the beat of the music as approximately 320 people danced their night away. Saturday, June 11th, was when the club hosted a Latino night, and each of the 3 bars was at full capacity, with the celebration continuing into the early morning hours of Sunday, June 12, 2016. The main dance floor was referred to as the Jewel Box, while the smaller one was called the Adonis Room. A fenced-in patio area was outdoors just off the Jewel Box. Aside from strobe lights that transitioned from one color to another, there was a disco ball dangling from the ceiling, throwing off a myriad of tiny dots of light that spun around the club. There were 3 different DJs spinning tunes, each with a different style of music booming through the spaces, including Caribbean and hip-hop. Bartenders did last call about 30 minutes before closing down for the night. It was a clear night, and it was still pretty warm at about 1:30 a.m. or so when 29-year-old Nate parked his rental car at an auto shop called Pro Tint and Detailing, which is adjacent to Pulse. He exited the vehicle and began to walk south towards the nightclub. The 5', 7" 227-pound man wore a blue, white, and green plaid shirt with short sleeves over a white t-shirt, tan cargo pants with a black belt, and a gun holster. He carried a Sig Sauer MCX semi-automatic rifle and a 9mm Glock 17 semi-automatic pistol, both of which he legally purchased about 2 weeks before the shooting. At 1:42 a.m., Nate entered the club through the main entrance. He paid the $10 cover charge, and a wristband was affixed to his arm. He proceeded to the main room of the club where he paused, taking in the people dancing. Perhaps he was getting a lay of the land, or perhaps he was merely gathering the nerve to commit such an atrocious massacre. Nate briefly chatted with a security guard, asking him if he was, indeed, a security guard. The man replied that he was, and Nate responded by telling the guard that he saw him there all the time. The security guard would later recall this encounter as being odd. He had never seen Nate in the club before, and it was a strange thing to lie about. In hindsight, the guard thinks that Nate was likely trying to determine whether the man was armed or not. Nate walked away and out of the club. He most likely used those few minutes to walk back to the rental and retrieve his firearms. Nate re-entered the club at 2:02 a.m., this time using the south side entrance, and armed with both a semi-automatic rifle and pistol. He was unhinged, with hate in his eyes and evil in his heart. Without missing a beat, Nate shot a patron who was standing just inside of the front parlor. Only seconds after the initial shots were fired, an Orlando Police Department or OPD officer reached for his radio and urgently reported, quote, "Shots fired, multiple people down." The officer was working, on duty, providing additional club security. The dispatcher on the other end broadcasted a signal 43, which is an alert that an officer needs assistance. The response was immediate. Inside the club, people continued to dance, not realizing that there was an active shooter inside.
The club. I'm at the club.
Several patrons believed the gunshots were a part of the thumping music, or a sound effect created by the DJ. One bartender thought there was an issue with a speaker, while one of the DJs thought firecrackers were going off outside of the club. Nate continued shooting, blasts from the semi-automatic weapons punctuating the pulsing music, blasting from speakers all around the club. The panic and terror set in, and clubgoers desperately raced towards the entrance, exit, bathroom, patio, or anywhere they could manage to flee this madman. Some ran into a fenced alleyway that was situated on the north end of the club.
You could start smelling the ammunition in the air. Like it smelled like fire.
Was your instinct to hit the ground?
I just wanted to get as low to the floor as I could and try to crawl into safety.
A security guard kicked a hole through the fence, which allowed almost 20 people to escape into the parking lot of a neighboring business. From 2:03 a.m. to 2:07 a.m., Nate went back and forth between the main dance floor and the bar, which was referred to as the rear bar, as it was sitting towards the back of the club. Victims were laying on the ground, and presumably some who were pretending to be dead. Nate walked past loading and reloading his gun, as he continued to shoot at those on the ground who were even more defenseless. At 2:07 a.m., Nate entered the restroom area where several terrified patrons and employees had sought shelter. He fired off 30 shots into the bathroom over 90 seconds. Simultaneously, 4 OPD officers entered the club through the patio area. A minute later, an OPD detective who was in the south parking lot, just outside of the club, caught sight of Nate inside a set of double doors. The detective fired several rounds towards Nate, who dodged back into the club and snaked his way deeper into the jewel box. The first responding officers later described the scene as one they've never seen before, or since. It looked like a combat zone. Bodies were literally piled on the stage of the largest room in the club, the jewel box. Deceased victims were lying on the dance floor, and because the music had cut off by then, it was strangely quiet. Downright eerie, in fact.
And then once other officers arrived on scene, that's when I entered inside the club, and I still noticed a couple wounded in there, and I started pulling them out, just one after another. I'd pull one out, put him behind the car, go right back inside, pull another out, pull him behind the car. And then once we found out that the officer was injured, I decided to get into the truck and get to the scene, get to the side of the road to do a transport for him.
I was honored to help them. Yeah. Even though I can't unsee what I've seen, I was proud to work with them. I am proud to work with them, and I'm honored to help the victims.
The chilling quietness was periodically interrupted by sporadic gunfire and ringing cell phones and heartbreaking cries for help. At 2:09 a.m., someone posted on the Orlando Facebook page saying, quote, "Everyone get out of Pulse and keep running." Moments after the 4 responding officers entered through the patio, another 6 officers entered through a window near the front entrance of the club. At 2:18 a.m., Nate barricaded himself in the restroom. Victims were hiding inside the very same bathroom, and one was brave enough to call 911 from the handicapped stall, saying that the shooter was in the bathroom. The victim had been shot in both their knee and leg, and it must have been pure adrenaline that kept them going.
Someone's getting weaker.
Okay.
The guy in the chest said he's getting weaker.
Okay, I understand.
Hello?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm trying to find out where the officers are for you, okay? Just stay on the phone.
Okay. All right. That's right. You're gonna get out, man. You're getting out. Hold on. Talk to somebody. Yeah, talk to somebody. Talk to your family. Serious situation. Does he need to sit up? You're good, man. You're good. You're talking. Talk. What you want to say? Huh? Who's seeing on you? Oh my God.
What's going on?
Okay, sit up. Come on, team, somebody. Go and pass me out.
Passing out.
Go and pass me out.
Okay.
She's passing out. It's okay.
Okay, where was she hurt?
Come on.
The one that was shot in the leg?
I think so.
Okay.
She's passing out.
Okay.
Wasn't one to say splash some water. Don't you land it, but take a trash can. Move the trash can. Go take a trash can over there. Take a trash can. Take a trash can. Watch out for the guy below. I don't want to hurt his hand. Sit down. I got you. She sit down.
Because of this 911 call, police now had a barricaded suspect with hostages incident. Another patron hiding in the restroom reportedly heard Nate muttering to himself, "Damn, my gun jammed." Perhaps they thought this would be the end of their living nightmare. Many people who called 911 were unable to get through due to the sheer volume of calls pouring in. The SWAT team arrived and indicated they felt confident that the shooter was in the bathroom with the hostages. The SWAT commander had a triage team made up of officers from various departments formed quickly, and that team worked to extract victims and survivors from the club. An officer walked through the building calling out, quote, "If you're alive, raise your hand." A triage center was established behind an Einstein Brothers Bagels, which was located approximately 200 feet from the club. There were so many victims and survivors that the triage center soon became overwhelmed, unable to handle the amount of injured people. Officers were forced to start transporting the injured to the Orlando Regional Medical Center in their patrol vehicles. In total, about 20 to 25 victims were transported to the hospital by police on the scene. At 2:35 a.m., Nate called 911. When the dispatcher answered, he began to pledge allegiance to the leader of the Islamic State. He spoke with police negotiators on 3 separate occasions, at 2:48, 3:03, and 3:24 a.m.
Hello there. Hi there. This is Orlando Police. Who am I speaking with, please?
You're speaking with the person who pledged his allegiance to the Islamic State.
I'm with the Orlando Police. Can you tell me what you know about what's going on tonight?
What's going on
Yes.
is that I feel the pain of the people getting killed in Syria and Iraq and all over the Muslim Ummah.
Okay. So, have you done something about that?
Yes, I have.
Tell me what you did, please.
No, you already know what I did.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to keep you safe and how to get this resolved peacefully, because I'm not a politician, I'm not a government. All I can do is help individuals, and I'm going to start with helping you.
By the way, there's some vehicles outside that have some bombs, just to let you know. Your people are going to get it, and I'm going to ignite it if they try to do anything stupid.
I got 0315. Yep.
Please leave your message for...
Yeah. What's going on? I couldn't get a hold of you for a while.
You're annoying me with these phone calls, and I don't really appreciate it.
Well, I understand that, but the fact that you appreciate it or not doesn't matter at this point. We need to talk, and we need to stay in open communication.
Like that. Yeah, no.
I'm treating you like an adult. We need to stay in constant contact.
No, none of your, no, Mr. Hot Switch Negotiator, no, don't play no shit with me.
Well, I'm trying to help you. And you don't want people to get injured. I presume that means if you brought somebody with you, you don't want them hurt. Is that correct?
None of your business, homeboy.
Okay. Can I get you to come outside and talk to my people there at the scene so we can peacefully resolve this?
No.
Okay, because I'm not there, but I have people there that would love to talk to you. Can you put down your weapon and come down outside and talk to them, please?
You want to know what type of weapon I have, too?
If you want to tell me.
Or you want to know how many weapons I have?
I can take that, too. I'm all ears.
During that time, at 3:20 a.m., the OPD released a tactical robot into the club. The robot managed to snap images of a urinal and a south bathroom, but it wasn't able to maneuver all the way into the bathroom because of the obstructions blocking the way. There was a speaker system on the robot, which the police used to let hostages know they were working on a rescue effort. At 4:21 a.m., officers pulled out an air conditioning unit that was inside a dressing room window, allowing some victims to evacuate. 8 people inside the dressing room were rescued by police. Nate spoke with a dispatcher at 4:23 a.m., telling them he had enough explosives to level a city block. After about 3 hours of being locked inside the bathroom, a SWAT officer announced over a loudspeaker that hostages inside the bathroom should move away from the wall. It was almost 5 o'clock in the morning when the Orange County Sheriff's Office, or OCSO, prepared an explosive charge to breach the western exterior wall of the nightclub. Officers used various explosives and an armored vehicle to penetrate the bathroom wall. The detonation only resulted in a partial breach, which was later determined to be due to the wall structure. The result was that the hole wasn't large enough to break through. At 5:08 a.m., the OPD Bearcat used its ram to enlarge the hole. The police quickly realized that the first hole actually breached the wall of the hallway between the bathrooms, and it wasn't where they intended to be. The Bearcat was repositioned and another hole was made, and this time it was large enough for the SWAT team to enter. One of the team members was making the hole in the south bathroom wider, and at that same moment, Nate appeared and began firing from the north bathroom. The SWAT commander deployed 2 flashbangs in immediate succession, and then sent the Bearcat to breach the north bathroom wall, which is where Nate was located. Additional hostages hiding in the restrooms were able to escape through a 2-by-3-foot hole at 5:14 a.m. A minute later, Nate escaped through the hole in the wall and immediately exchanged gunfire with a SWAT officer. He was shot and killed at 5:15 a.m. The SWAT officer was struck in his ballistic helmet by one of Nate's bullets, falling to the ground, yet still returning fire. That ballistic helmet saved his life. Inside the club, the shooting and subsequent hostage situation was finally over. Deputies backed away from the club out of concern for IEDs. The bomb squad was deployed to the scene to look for IEDs that Nate may have placed in the club. The move was made out of an abundance of caution due to Nate telling the hostages that he planted explosives and bombs. Once the building was secured, police could freely enter the club. There was an inch of fluid, including spilled drinks, smashed liquor bottles, body fluids, and blood. A broadcast announcement was made across the radio at 5:27 a.m., saying that all injured and uninjured people, about 90 in all, had been removed from the club. At 11:15 a.m. on Sunday, June 12th, Nate's vehicle was declared safe. Victims were rushed to 4 different hospitals, including Orlando Regional Medical Center, Dr. Phillips Hospital, Winter Park Hospital, and Florida Hospital. The most critically injured were transported to Orlando Regional due to its proximity to Pulse. Victim advocates from the University of Central Florida Police Department responded in full force, reaching out to victims, the injured, and their family at each of the 4 hospitals, providing solace to those so deeply impacted. A statewide call to victim advocates was initiated, and another 80 advocates answered the call, including several Spanish-speaking, to aid in communicating with doctors, nurses, and police. The Hampton Inn and Suites near the club provided a massive space for a family reunification center. It was there that most of the death notifications were made. 48 out of the 49 death notifications were made by Monday, June 13th. A GoFundMe was launched entitled Pulse Tragedy Community Fund. It raised over $560,000 and doesn't include each of the separate GoFundMe pages that were created for individual victims and survivors. It's not difficult to understand why so much has been raised to benefit the club and its patrons. Pulse Nightclub was described as one big family. Anyone and everyone was welcomed and invited in with open arms. So many felt comfortable and safe at that club, expressing themselves through dance. The city of Orlando donated $4,518 to build a barrier fence around the nightclub, memorializing the location. In November of 2016, the city also agreed to purchase the club for $2.25 million. However, the following month it was reported that the club's owner chose not to sell after all, citing personal reasons, as well as an emotional connection. There is still a temporary memorial in place, and a permanent memorial is in the works. The shooting at Pulse remains one of the deadliest mass shootings in recent U.S. history, second only to the Las Vegas Route 91 Harvest Festival shooting, which we will cover in future episodes. Thank you for listening to Part 1 of the Pulse nightclub shooting. We'll be back with Part 2 on October 2nd. In the meantime, we urge our listeners to stay aware of your surroundings and keep in touch with your loved ones. If you see something, say something. You never know how many lives you'll be saving. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Active Shooter, the podcast. Remember, if you see something, say something. There's no telling how many lives you may be saving. A big thank you to Darren Curtis, who composed some of the songs on our show. You can find him online at www.darrencurtismusic.com. Make sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on Facebook at Active Shooter, the podcast, and on Twitter at Podcast Active. Thank you, and be safe.